Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Mitch's Minute, the show where either we wake up,
Or we don't.
the show where it comes late because people sleep in because of long weeks and shit. Oh
hmm
God, fucking, you know, before we get into this today's session, what a week for our Fire Emblem fans, huh?
Oh God.
Uh,
Yeah.
so context if you're not caught up. Last week we announced on this show actually that there was going to be a slight issue with the recordings for it was last week because we had recorded like a bunch of material to get it through that day, like to get it through Monday through Friday. We did the same thing this week. Um, and we had recorded an hour and a half of social links that just didn't go up. And so the problem is that there was a lot of confusion because in one episode we're praising the ever loving shit out of Lorenz, and then the next episode we're taking a big dump on him.
Yeah,
So
we're like, God, he's
Yup,
such an asshole. It was a huge tonal shift.
so like
little bit. But it makes sense once you have seen, like, if you've seen Lorenz's social links, because
well,
he's him. He gets better. I'll say that. But he's Lorenz is Lorenz.
he's still a dick. Like that's the thing. I know he gets better.
But yeah, he's still like that.
He still can be a dick though. Like
Mhm.
I don't know. Like it's that thing where it's like and that's the thing. It's not that I don't like. It's not that I hate Lorenz or anything like that. It's just I think that like it was that weird feeling where it's like we had said in the videos where it's like certain characters were growing on us, and then
Certain ones aren't.
yeah, certain ones just kind of slowed the fuck down, and that's how I feel sometimes when it comes to that. Like they'll do some really great stuff, and I'll be like really in love with their like development and the character, and then nothing, and then I'm just like, ah, fuck. Um,
And sometimes they're doing really well, and then all of a sudden they'll do something that backpedals them hella hard.
oh yeah, oh fuck. There's so much that happened this week, though. There was this part of me that was like, you know what I should do is I should just do a 30-minute. I should just stop doing Mitch's Minute and do like 30-minute Mitch's Minutes throughout the week because holy shit, there's so much that came out this week. Even if I just do the show by myself, like like I should do something because there's so much. Overwatch is coming to the fucking Switch. How
Yep,
fucking crazy is
that's the
that?
thing.
Yeah, I'm excited. Only because it's another thing to buy Overwatch on. A prom I can bitch and moan all I want about Overwatch, but I started playing it again this week with Gang Ludo, and it's been a really good time. I do like the new role queue. So if you haven't been playing Overwatch, they added this new Final Fantasy 14 esque system in which before you go into your quick play, you tell the game, hey, I want to be playing a tank or I want to be playing a DPS or a healer, and then that way they can throw you into games, and more importantly, all
Oh,
the
so you
games
don't just have 5 DPS in one team and no healer or
exactly,
anything.
or Team O tank and no healer.
Yeah.
So you have like these incredibly balanced teams who all of a sudden the games feel way more intense. They feel way more
Mhm.
like fulfilling because it's two even teams facing off of against each other.
And not just like 5 completely uncoordinated dipshits against 5 either equally uncoordinated or superiorly coordinated who just keep winning.
Well, like, okay, so we had this problem back in, like, it's not exclusive to Overwatch. Like,
Mhm.
another Blizzard property was Heroes of the Storm. And in
Yep.
Heroes of the Storm, you're in a MOBA game either split or together, whether you have laners or whatever. But the idea
Mhm.
was is that like you could be fighting like a team where they have like just because someone was a support didn't mean they were a healer, and so you'd be facing off against teams with really high healing potency, which allowed them to sustain and do a better job, and with maybe bruisers instead of DPS. And it was kind of hard. It was hard to balance that game out. And they did make attempts to try to balance that later on before the game kind of was abandoned. Not entirely, obviously.
That one didn't really get very big for very long, did it?
Well, it's been out for a while. That's the trick. I used to love playing Heroes of the Storm, but last year when they no, it was earlier this year when they announced that they weren't gonna put as many resources into the game. That's when I kind of dipped, because I was well, I mean, why would we play it otherwise? If they're not going to do anything worthwhile, quote unquote, then that means that no new players are going to come in, which means all the old players the diehards are going to stick around. They canceled the league, but that's not the point. The point is that that game had a similar issue. But now when you play Overwatch, it feels good. I had a horrible problem with getting salty and shit like that, simply because of team comps, or because people weren't doing their jobs effectively, or people didn't understand their jobs.
But now people are specifically playing jobs that they are comfortable with and that they know what to do for the most part, because they get to pick in advance what part of the team they're going to be playing.
Yeah, and I think that honestly, it super works. It super works. And Lewd Mercy says they used to play Mercy because they were forced to and they wanted to. I feel kind of similarly. I was playing earlier as Baptiste, one of the newer healers, because I dropped Overwatch, and so I was like, fuck it, I'll give it a new shot. And I found that he's really effective. He's not as no healer is as potent as Miss White Mage herself, Mercy, but
they all have their own advantages and disadvantages to them. I think from what I've heard of her, she's a very straight up healer, whereas the others have some different tricks to them that do slightly different functions as well, which kind of balances out.
Yeah, obviously, because what is it? Rent, did you ever play Overwatch?
No, I have not played it. I've kept up with some of the characters and what happens with it, but I never actually played the game.
Okay, so I would say it like this. Mercy is the quintessential white mage. Her healing potency is the strongest. Her ability to do support is pretty solid, but that's the trick. She can only do one of those at a time. And she also has a pistol used for emergency situations, but that's emergency situations.
Yeah, so, it's really impressive if a Mercy's going in there and actually kills people with her fucking pistol.
Right, it's supposed to be a big deal. So the thing with Mercy is her healing potency is higher than anyone else, because unlike the other healers, let's take Lucio, right? In the base game, Lucio has probably one of the best fucking abilities in the game, which is just to heal people. As long as you're all together, he can heal people. The more people he has, sometimes the better the effect. And so it's the thing that it's the whole, hey, let's group up together mentality. So you normally want to build teams, or whoever you have as your team, you want to be able to pick healers that will work towards that. In the same way with
and you also want to pick other people who fit with the other, you want to pick a DPS that complements your tank and stuff like that, to make sure that you can move around and switch out as you need to properly.
Yeah, it's the whole gimmick of the game is to pick matches and try to do better. For example, you can be the best Reinhardt in the world. I was having a blast with him earlier today. But if you do not have a team that complements Reinhardt and will have people behind you taking the shots, you're just a lonely dude out there fucking shooting, with a big shield for no reason.
Yeah. If nobody's behind your shield, what's the point of having it?
So you got.
There is something I am curious about, though.
What's up?
I'm curious if the fucking queue times for DPS is going to be similar.
So they actually do show. One of the things that I really enjoyed was they actually have a little thing down below, because obviously it was only introduced recently, so they're still trying to work the bugs out. So like what happens is it'll tell you down below when you're picking your queue, like, oh, this is going to take 2 minutes, this is going to take 3 minutes. And the thing is that that's it. It's either 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So like if you pick now how they incentivize you to pick tank and the healer, that's the part that's got me interested. Because what they did was it's straight out of 14's book. Let's say the server needs more tanks. So they're like, all right, so we're going to give you 25 credits to play a tank for one round. Whether win or lose, you get 25 credits.
Interesting.
Because you are doing, like, you are helping fill out the roles, and you are actively being a part of the game. So
I just find it hard to believe the 2 to 3 minute incentive, maybe at first, but
yeah, obviously. Well, that's the thing. Millions of people still play Overwatch. Like, even though like a lot of people I know say like that they don't play anymore, especially me. Like literally last week. Like it's.
But
something...
I mean, there's enough people still playing it that it was worth porting to the Switch.
We'll see how that turns out. I
guess we will.
I'm very worried about the Switch port, but I'm also like being like, well, here's the problem. Ever since Blizzard got into new management, we've been having like so many like weird emotions about it. Like, I know for a fact that BlizzCon's coming up, and last year Nate got me a virtual ticket for it, and it's not the first time I've talked about it on the show because it was a very nice gesture, but two, it was very fun, and there's a genuine fear of mine that BlizzCon this year is going to be bad. It's gonna be real bad, and there's no way that we can like, salvage it. So I'm trying to come up with like some way, even if it's dumb, to be like, well, Overwatch is coming out on the Switch. Diablo came out on the Switch. I'm not too big of a fan of Diablo, but there's part of me that's like, maybe I should get a copy just to support Blizzard, because I don't want to see what happened to Heroes of the Storm and what people are rumoring to hearing about what's going to happen to Hearthstone here in a second. Like, some of these Blizzard properties aren't doing so hot, and I don't know how well Classic's doing right now. I'm hoping it's doing well, because at the end of the day, that's all I can hope for as like a consumer. Is I want to see, as shitty as that interview was, where he was like, Overwatch is only in phase 1. A part of me is like,
it's a weird freaking concept.
He said that during the end of, it was around the time of Endgame, and I think it was Michael Chu or some shit like that. I don't know who said it, but like it was someone directly involved in Overwatch production, and they're working on Overwatch 2 apparently, and I'm like, how the fuck does that work? So like,
is Overwatch
maybe
2
actual story to it? That would be nice.
Well, that's the thing.
I mean, they keep like hinting that there's going to be this big actual story, and then they give us like little bits and bobs.
Well, okay, so here
sometimes contradict each other. But...
yeah, well, we're not talking about Diva and that whole thing. So look, the way I see it is this: when Overwatch, let's go back to the Hanzo and Genji bit, right? Genji says at the very end, there's a storm coming or a war coming, and you must pick a side, Hanzo, and that was the end of that story thread. I remember watching that shit like April a couple years ago and being fucking mesmerized by I'm like, what kind of cool story this gonna be? I'm listening to first person shooters, but I was like, I'm willing to learn to that's how powerful Overwatch was.
I remember a lot of those like early animated videos that they did, as well as comics that they did, and it was like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. I might pick up this game. I didn't in the end, but that stuff at least got me interested in it by the time. But unfortunately, I saw some of the rest of the stuff, and I was like, okay, I'll enjoy this from afar, because it's still fun, but I'm not paying, what is it, like $60 for the game?
Well, the initial release. Well, but I don't know, if you pay, I don't know, that's not.
It's a lot of money for a high schooler with no job.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, because if that's just a standard video game, I have to shell that shit out every month.
I am willing to pay that much money for a game if it looks really, really cool. but I have a job now
At the
that
time,
pays me decently.
at the time, Overwatch was this fucking phenomenon, and I remember like people like going crazy for it. I remember seeing convention goers. I remember like the whole 9 yards, right? Like Overwatch was fucking thebomb.com. But over the years, because nothing came from it, because our only
The
story
hype
threads
did not get delivered on.
well, we were promised
At least
something
not fully.
more. Like that was the problem. Is okay.
It looked like they did release this game that was going to be like the multiplayer stuff, but from what I saw at the first part, I was expecting it to have like an actual story mode.
Well,
Like,
Yeah.
like an actual like campaign of a narrative that you'd play through. I thought that was what they were going to go for, and then I just kept hearing, no, it's just the multiplayer. It's just the multiplayer, and I'm like,
well, okay. So here's the deal, right? So over all of Overwatch, in terms of the game, is non-canonical, and essentially what they're selling you on is they're selling you the concepts of these heroes. For example, fun fact.
and some of them are cool concepts, but like that's not what it was presented as in the first bit.
Okay,
And
yeah,
then-
yeah, but that's not okay. Look, so I'm not trying to defend Blizzard here. I'm just trying to present the facts.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, continue.
No, it's you fucking keep interrupting me. Fucking. Anyways,
Sorry.
you're fine. You're fine. You're excited. That's a good thing. It's good to be excited on a topic. I'd rather have us be excited for a topic than coming in swashbuckly drunk. So fucking okay. So let's talk about Zenyatta, right? Zenyatta's a healer character. He's an Omnic. He can, shoot little Orbeez and stuff like that. He has Transcendence. He has all these really, really neat abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Chu, fucking son of a bitch writer for this goddamn world, says, well, Zenyatta can't do that stuff. That just represents his faith. That represents like his personality in a combat form. And I sat there and I was like, wait, why did you program him to do all this cool shit? It's like when people are like, there's no such thing as magic in Overwatch. I'm like, then what was the spirit dragon bit?
What's the dragons? Yeah.
What's this?
Yeah.
What the fuck was the dragons bit?
Wait, Zenyatta doesn't actually have the.
No, he doesn't have the
No.
ability to do any of that stuff he does in the game because
What?
once again, the game in Blizzard's terms is non-canonical, meaning
How did they
abilities and stats.
explain Reaper?
So
What
I
is
think he's
Reaper?
meant to be
Reaper is-
nanotech. I think he's
Re-
meant to be nanotech.
the story goes that Moira did some weird experiment, and I think Ren's like close. I think it's supposed to be some sort of either nanotech or some shit. But the idea is that it's imperfected because, as you can tell, like the way that there's a little bit of a thing where it's like Reaper takes a second to teleport, but Moira can do it instantaneously, and it's like Reaper was a guinea pig for that. So Moira perfected it and used it for herself. That's like kind of like a character trait, right? So like the thing is though is that at the end of the day, all this stuff, all these years, all this time, we were promised something more. The game was supposed to be this non-canonical fighter, like Smash Brothers, right? That's kind of how I took it for a little bit.
Which
there.
is blowing up in the chat right now.
Look, we're gonna talk about that because guess who, before he found out had horrible car problems, bought the DLC pass, not for Joker. Not for the hero, not for Banjo-Kazooie, but because my favorite little skeleton buddy, that I always horribly mispronounce his name, like
Sans?
Yeah, Sans.
Like Comic Sans.
Yeah,
Wait, how do you mispronounce Sans?
None of you watched my
Sans.
playthrough, and it's very obvious. So
Sans.
I
That's how you
pronounced
mispronounce it.
I pronounced his name Sans for like 24 episodes. So but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. So that's the thing, though. What I would want more than anything is Overwatch to come out on the Switch. And that tells me one thing. That tells me, okay, we're at that point, right? We're at the point where you release this game on the Switch, on a Nintendo system. There is no more room now to move Overwatch as it is. Let's start either showing us, like next year, show us something for Overwatch 2. Or something in the works. Do not give us another one of those fucking animated shorts. I can't do the animated shorts anymore.
Or if you do an animated short, actually have it lead to something and not just sit there.
Well, each one's
have
supposed
it
to
lead
be
all the way to fucking Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like all you like, it's I remember seeing the goddamn animated trailer for Overwatch, the very first one, the very first one where they're trying to get Doomfist's gauntlet.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell that Overwatch is in such a weird state because ever since like in its first year, there was a comic that was supposed to come out that was going to explain the origins to Overwatch. And then it had like a hardcover copy and everything. And I knew people who pre-ordered it. And then it went by and it got delayed. And everyone sat on it. And then eventually they had to talk about it and they're like, yeah, we have to cancel this. And they're like, wait, why? It's because the story changed, I guess, so dramatically from the minute that they wrote and were ready to produce that to now, which was so bizarre to hear. But, like, then you find out, like, all these story threads, all this shit. Did you know there's, like, okay, so there's Overwatch comics you can read online for free.
Yep.
And one of them has to deal with a god program called Anubis, and how Farrah has to deal with it and everything like that. I'm like, that's a really cool story. There's also a story where Torbjorn and Bastion become buddy-buddy because...
Yeah, it's really cute.
And, like, Torbjorn feels this horrible guilt because essentially he built the blueprints to the original Bastion units. And that's a real character development moment for him. But these are all moments in fucking comic books that are available online and are not accessible to everyone. Which I know sounds like a contradictory statement. But for a lot of people, they don't know that these comic books exist. You have to either be following it actively, playing the game actively, having some form of newsletter that tells you or something, because otherwise you're not gonna know. And I think that's just all of this is ridiculous. How the hell did you squander one of the most popular IPs around? How the fuck did you squander it?
I mean, call this a hot take, but if you have a story that you're telling in a video game, you should put it in your video game.
Yeah.
Not on like a third-party website thing that you aren't actively blasting information about through the video game, so people just straight up don't know you're doing shit.
Well, it's just I don't understand how Blizzard squandered this fucking IP. This was so goddamn big that a lot of people were saying that it would, okay, if World of Warcraft conquered the double O's, Overwatch was gonna be the one that conquered the tens. It
had potential.
And that's the thing. I have, right now, 4 Funko Pops on my Funko Pop wall that are Sombra, Genji, McCree, and Torbjorn. Because I'll always, and I actually have the Overwatch Ultimates Tracer box like right next to him. Because I actually really like Overwatch. As an IP, as a concept, as an idea, it's really cool. As a game, I would get so mad about it. But like at the same time, like it's one of those things that I always like to come back to. And I'm having one of those moments right now where I'm coming back to it. Everything comes in cycles with me. So like it feels like I'm having a good time. Me and Gang Mudo are like playing like we'll pick teams and stuff, and we'll pick good combos. We're both pretty versatile players, so it all works out fine. And then like it just feels like we're sitting there and enjoying ourselves, and then I have this horrible thought of like, okay, but what next? Like Sigma came out. What was it? Sigma came out. Baptiste came out. And the
hamster and the robot came out at some point.
That was.
I know that one was longer ago, but I just remembered. Right, there's a hamster in a robot. That's a character.
Our world is scientifically based.
Yeah, no magic. Fuck you for even implying.
No magic. Now enjoy this rollerball hamster.
Okay, look. Hamtaro aside, we have to like. That's the thing. This year alone, we've only had 2 heroes, and when I think about that, that's not good because we are like in fucking September right now. So when's the next, like, in its first year we had Ana and Sombra, and they were very big releases because Overwatch had just come out, and the idea was that we would get ideally was that we were supposed to get like 2 or 3 heroes every year. I think that was the plan. And which I remember having conversations with Sora at the time. Maybe it's archived here on the show, you know, through one of my other podcast shows, but like we were having conversations about how that's a real concern because in other MOBA games they release new heroes every 2 months, and so how does Overwatch compete with that? And so we had like actual moments of like trying to figure out like what the plan was for Blizzard, and then like one year I think we had close to 3 or 4, and but it felt like pretty evenly spaced out, and every release felt really good. And then we had this year. Baptiste is post shit hitting the fan. So like we have Baptiste, who by the way, very good. I shat on him a little bit here and there when he first came out, but like he's a really effective healer. I think he's really solid. He's still not as good as Mercy, but like obviously no one can be. So like
Moira would disagree.
Yeah, well, when I see Moira players actually healed, then, you know, you can come into my house and tell me that, but I'm not trying to throw shade at Moira players, but...
Not your wife, you mean?
Yeah. Fucking, she got, like, what was it, 27 kills yesterday, and me and Gang Widow were just like, yeah, but we died, though. Yeah, she's like, yeah, but I got the 27 kills. I'm like, yeah, but it's because we died!
But you're the healer!
You heal!
But, like, that's just the trick of this all. The trick of this all is that we're waiting and expecting for the next big thing to happen, and I don't see the next hero fixing any problems. And that's kind of one of my issues with Overwatch in general. One, the fandom could be a little bit much, and that's neither, but every fandom can be a little bit much. Yeah. But Overwatch's biggest problem is that they squandered the IP because they sat on it too long and didn't do too much with it. They created a game, created characters, created a world, but they didn't know a lot of hype. But they didn't know what to do with it after their characters were released in the games. For example, I don't know what the fuck, like at the end of the day, when all is said and done, what would, like, Winston's supposed to be like trying to start Overwatch up again. Jack is saying Overwatch should be dead and gone. I'm a mercenary. I'm gonna do my own thing. And then you have like characters who also don't fit into the story, like Wrecking Ball or Junkrat and Roadhog, or like, you know, any of like Lucio or Symmetra. Like these characters don't naturally, like, they fit into their own narrative and their own side stories, but I don't see these being characters that like fit into the larger narrative that is Overwatch. And I think that like, oh, okay, here's a fun one. Sombra. She had her own animated short, had her own ARG, the whole 9 yards. You know, everyone has their own opinions about it, but like at the end of the day, it was what it is. And at the end of the video, it's like fucking Zarya shows up and she's like, yeah, what can I do for you? And it's like, holy shit, she's gonna send Zarya to kill Sombra. Like that's gonna be a big deal. You know how we find out the rest of that storyline? In comics.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
We find out
Sombra's
name in comics.
Yeah, that's kind of like, oh, this character shrouded in mystery who's done all this effort to hide her identity so she can be this mysterious hacker lady. Let's have this big reveal about her identity that's a major thing for her be in a comic that we don't tell a lot of people exists. Like, I enjoy the concept of Sombra. I think aesthetically she looks really cool. I think, like, her story had, like, potential in it, but it's not how you execute it.
In the chat, Loon Mercy's asking what Sombra's name was. It's Olivia Colomar.
Yep.
Still one of my favorite characters, but
but the fact that you even had to ask that.
Well, I mean, honestly, This was back when I was paying attention to Overwatch, but I didn't even know that.
Well,
I was actively following the fan base, and I
Mhm.
didn't see anyone talking about Sombra's name.
it was supposed to be this big reveal that it's so Zarya threatens Sombra and it's like, you stay away from her, and she's like, or what? And she's like, and all she says is Olivia Colomar, and the whole gimmick is Sombra in her intro says, I've been trying to hide from these eyes for my entire life, and I want to know the world's secrets, and I'm going to find them out. That's her whole gimmick.
Yep.
And I think Michael Chu is still the writer, but writing what? I mean, I hate being a dick like that, but what the fuck, dude? You all they did also a weird retcon where Diva's no longer a StarCraft player. In the original,
Why?
I don't know, but they removed that detail because a lot of it's like the Mandela effect, where all these players were like, yeah, I remember her saying a lot of stuff about StarCraft, and then you play Heroes of the Storm, and then she's all excited to meet the StarCraft players in Heroes of the Storm because they didn't remove the voice lines there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Michael Chu's like, no, she's not a StarCraft player. But you told us
everybody
for years
that she was.
She had she was it said on the wiki and on the official pages and everything that she was a
famous gamer.
She's a famous StarCraft player. In Heroes of the Storm, when she's interacting with other StarCraft players, she's like, I can't believe it's Kerrigan, oh my god! She's freaking out because these are characters she recognizes. You can't just sit there and fucking lie to us and be like, no, she was never a StarCraft.
Do you think someone got offended?
No, what I think happened was they thought that they could get away with removing it from the canon for some godforsaken reason. They were like, oh yeah, she's not one of those. And then they're like, okay, but...
And that's not even getting into, they keep shifting the timeline of for, the big explosion at the base, or was it the embassy or something that was meant to kick off a lot of the conflict, and they keep changing the timeline, and people are either incomprehensibly young or incomprehensibly old for different parts in it.
Brigitte is either Torbjorn's
granddaughter or daughter, and we're not sure.
And this sounds almost... Fuck it. Michael Chu's a hack when it comes to this shit. You should have...
he has a lot of ideas. He has not put them together in a coherent, sensible manner.
Love to see a timeline, honestly.
Fuck, which one?
There is one that makes sense.
I just want to give him a piece of paper and a fucking pencil and be like, timeline right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because
I need you to explain all of it right now. I would watch his head explode.
He's I don't know. It feels so unnatural sometimes the way that characters go through their motions. But I don't know. It sucks because it's this thing that you love, right? I remember, I still remember those moments when Overwatch first came out, and I remember playing the game, and I remember all this stuff, and feeling this warm feeling inside when I finally started playing on PC and I could play with Sora and all my friends. And then I look at it now, and it's the whole, fucking Ozymandias thing, You look at this desert, and there's the little sign that says, look at all I've built, and it's just a big statue of Tracer that's just torn apart. And this is the legacy you left behind. And Overwatch is going to be one of those things where it's like, oh my god, it was so big, whatever happened to it? And we're all sitting here fuck, dude.
They threw a lot of things. They threw a lot of ideas out there, and then just they never completed their execution.
It's
been really weird to watch.
I think for me, the moment Overwatch died was this year's fucking Archives event. Last year's Archives event was phenomenal. It was you're part of Blackwatch. They released a new skin for Reaper where he's or or not. Well, they released a new skin for him where he's a young man, but you also have like him. You play him and Genji and all the quote unquote like edgy boys of Blackwatch.
Like, you've got to play the Blackwatch squad on a Blackwatch mission, and I remember seeing that. I thought that was actually kind of cool. Like that was actually like a bit of the story happening in the game.
And people were dissecting the ever-loving shit out of those cutscenes because it's implied that someone sold them out. And and Reaper looks over and for a second, and you have to like look at it, but like people think that it was Moira. Moira sold them out, and that some people. Here's the thing: back in the day, we could argue Reaper's a double agent. He effectively destroyed the corrupted version of Overwatch, and that he's trying to figure out who runs Talon.
Yeah, I remember seeing a lot of fan theory stories and stuff about that, which seems like some of those people might have put more effort into the world building and the potential for it than the actual writers did.
Than Michael Chu.
But, that's just me.
Like, and it's just this thing where it's like, but then this year, right? So, like, I was excited. I was like, all right, you know what? I haven't been playing for a hot second, but it's Archives time, and Archives never disappoints. Archives is always you send us on a mission in Overwatch's timeline. You come up with new cool outfits for everyone to wear. I mean, for fuck's sake, Moira was wearing the fucking Valkyrie suit in last year, and that was such a cool little detail. And so like now we're gonna see like what's the next adventure. And I was like, this time you go to Havana, and I'm like, oh neat. And it's like and it's regular Tracer and regular Genji and regular Winston and regular Mercy, and I'm like, fuck.
Why?
And the level's kind of boring, and it's raining out. And it's like, oh, because you see the trailer for it, and it's like, oh, Tracer's riding a motorcycle, and there's a cool car chase, and there's all this stuff, and it looks really cool, and it looks like there was a lot of work effort put into it. And then Jeff Kaplan does his, hey guys, Jeff from the Overwatch team here bit, and he's fucking talking about how like, oh, the rain effects for this event are so good, are so solid, and I'm like, that's not what I'm here for.
No, that's like that. I don't think anybody came to Overwatch.
So you beat the mission, and you're like, okay, what's the story thread? Because that's what you came here for Archives for. The first Archives event was Tracer's first mission. The second Archives event was fucking the Blackwatch mission, and the third one was you chase a dude who has ties to Talon from leaving an island of from leaving the area of Havana. In the rain. And then it is implied at the end of it all that there is a new talent, like not a new talent member, but there is a new, at the time, Talon recruit that's coming in that's going to be an Omnic, and he's the first evil Omnic. And I sat there, and I had this incredibly underwhelming feeling of like, this should have been more. Someone out there thought that this was a good idea. Someone out there was like, all right, so we're going to have Tracer and everyone on a regular mission. To which my argument is, just make a fucking costume for them. Even if you just put them in new costumes, at least that's something. But like, it just felt like you took all the regular shit that we always do every fucking time. Oh, you got to go through this area. You got to do
sounds like the only new thing was the rain and the changing the weather.
And the worst part
isn't so way too bad.
They recycled Talon enemies from last year.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, great.
So you had the sniper rifle. You had the sniper, you had the grunts, you had the big bad. Nothing was new. And they were all introduced last year for the big event, for fucking Archives, for something that meant something, for a part of the story that had heart in it, that mattered. Mm-hmm. Because in the previous year, you had the little Omnics, and Omnics had their different types and sizes, and that was your introduction to Orisa and all this stuff, and it made sense, and it made sense then. So why is it that, like, it was so lazy? This thing that's supposed to be right before the anniversary event, the thing that's supposed to make people come into play so that they keep playing through the anniversary event. I skipped the anniversary event this year because
the only thing you can give it is weather.
What?
you like, how do you squander this? And I keep going back to this today. But honest to God, I can't understand. You had the biggest IP in the land. You had before Fortnite popped like it did. Overwatch was something everyone wanted to be a part of. I had my mom watch those shorts because she loves animation bits, and she was so enthralled, and she always keeps asking me, Mitchell, when are they going to do anything with that Overwatch thing? And I have to sit there and I'm like, I don't know. Because
I have not a fucking clue.
Because that's the thing. You had them in the palm of your fucking hand, and you didn't know what to do with it. And you squandered it.
I don't think they came into it with an actual plan. Like, I genuinely think they launched without having finished their plan, and then they just kept changing it.
So then why do we hold Michael Chu to such a high... Like, why do we... Oh, he's the story writer for Overwatch. That means nothing now!
There is no complete coherent story for this thing. And I think that's, like, a real shame, because it brings so many interesting character types and aesthetics to the table, and then just does nothing with them.
Yeah, honestly, they had a lot of story threads they could have followed. I can think of like 4 off of the top of my head, and I'm not even that fucking interested in Overwatch.
There was a summer where I was like, I was like writing these theories, and I had my own idea of how Overwatch should go and all this stuff, and I can't. You know what? This is fucking all right. Look, we're gonna end this talk because fucking not this episode. We're just gonna end our Overwatch talk because
this topic.
I still need to talk about Smash and literally everything else.
Yes, let us move on to the Skelly Bro that is now in Smash.
I will end the Overwatch talk with one statement, which is Overwatch feels like a relationship with a bad breakup. And you're trying to sit there and you're trying to figure out, like, what went wrong? How did this happen? Not because you still, like, love them, but because you're like, how do we avoid this again? And I think the answer, and much like in real life with that kind of situation, the answer is you sometimes don't get your answer. And you just have to keep going. So, unless something can happen with Overwatch where it'll reinvigorate us, and, you know, maybe in 6 months' time you'll hear me singing a different tune, I'm like, oh, Overwatch 2 looks so good! They're gonna need to do a lot to win back their fan base.
Yeah, they promised a lot and delivered on little.
They delivered nothing.
Yep.
They delivered new characters.
They are going to need to pull off a lot of shit to convince people to trust that they're actually making something interesting again.
I'm worried that they're actually... There's a whole thing we can talk about Blizzard specifically and the acquisition.
I'm so sorry to interrupt,
no,
but I just have one question. Why didn't they ever do anything about, like, Talon taking people? Like with Widowmaker? Why didn't they ever go into that? Why not have that be a mission?
I don't know.
Oh, where they retrieved her, and then, like, a few days later she killed her fucking husband? Yeah.
Yeah, it turned out that she was, like, either brainwashed or maybe had been a double agent the whole time.
No, she was brainwashed because
I know that's like the canon one.
She still feels she there's sad moments in the comics where she goes and visits
where she leaves the rose on her husband's grave.
Yeah.
I'm still, just, you know.
Yeah.
I would have.
Yeah, no, that could have been a really important story point.
Yeah,
could have been.
Overwatch trying to get back some of the people that they that were taken by Talons. Just like, oh, who the fuck is that? Oh, that's fucking Amelie. Fucking.
That's our best friend's wife who was brainwashed into murdering the love of her life.
Yeah.
That's just cool. We're just gonna leave that.
Yeah. So, anyways, you guys, I don't know. I'm gonna keep playing because I'm having fun right now. But like, I'm very curious to see how this turns out. That being said, we're gonna move on to the next topic at hand, which is Smash.
Yep.
Because fuck it, why not? So before I ran into horrible financial problems, I bought the character season pass for Smash, and it was not Joker. It wasn't the hero from not Fire Emblem, from Dragon Quest, and it wasn't Banjo-Kazooie that got me that fucking pass. It was Sans. It was Sans. It was my boy. It was my cool Skelly boy, because despite everything that the internet has made him to be, which is a big memey boy,
He is a good character.
I remember. Here's the thing. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do Genocide Run, because after you do a good run, and after you do like the true run, like it's like how can you ever do it? And it would be so like emotionally taxing. So I watched a playthrough of it, and like Sans is like his gift to see into the other universes and see you like befriend and then kill all the friends. Like that's such a unique and cool ability. And I think that like he's the super all powerful guy, but like at the end of the day, like he's doing this, he's fighting you not because I don't know why some people make him seem like he's a dick or an edgy boy. But he's doing this because you fucked up. You killed all of his friends.
You murdered his brother. He's mad.
So like,
So
it's like
he's a good character, and he got memed, which he got memed
like really really hard, and it's just it's one of those things where I'm always it's really unfortunate. But then again, like some of the fun little memes that came out nowadays because Sans is in Smash like is fun, and I know that people are like, why isn't he a full character? I'm going to say, don't look a gifted horse in the mouth in this one. Let's just...
I mean, my main thing with his, with the costume for him there is, it falls right into the wrong spot of the uncanny valley for me.
Really?
And dead eyes haunt my soul.
He's a sprite.
I don't know, something about the render, I don't know. The way they built that costume unnerves me. But that's just me. I think it's cool that he's there, but his face scares me in the way they execute it.
I don't know. I look at him and all I see is Sans. I see my boy. I see he does the cool laser stuff, and I think like I don't know. I think that's, in my opinion, that's the only way you could have done a 3D Sans. But like it's in terms of his moveset and stuff, I think obviously like that I would have liked to have seen, like, if he was his own fighter, there's tons of things he could have done, but I almost wonder if it's like they would never do it, obviously, because one, it's way just easier to do it that way, and all the time and the money and stuff like that for but that's not the point. The point is that it's just so good to see the boy. What I didn't know was that he was going to cost me 75 cents, which was an interesting thing to find out about me costumes, that like you have to buy the pass, and then you also, on top of the pass, you have to buy the me costumes for 75 cents, which is a very very small price to pay. But it was just a weird like moment of, most fighting games and shit, when you buy those passes, it's like you get everything.
Yeah, like you paid already.
But like,
what's this second price tag doing here?
It felt weird, but like besides that, like I had a chance to play Joker for a bit, which is so long overdue. Joker came out like not last year, but I think came out earlier this year.
Earlier this year, yeah.
And he's fun. He's really good. I really enjoy him. The thing with Smash is that I only really play that game with either Sword. Like, me and Sword will play that game like seriously, like as fun as as fun rivalries can be. But I never have any intention to play the game any further or beyond. Like on a competitive level. The Dragon Quest hero is pretty good. It's pretty fun. But yeah, beyond that, it's one of those things where it's like Smash's DLC, really really solid. And I'm sorry, guys, that there is only this one image. To be honest with you, I had no intention to speak about either of these topics tonight.
But now we are.
Yeah, but now we are.
Shit happens.
Yeah, shit happens, and it's kind of a thing that happens. Can I get a big picture of Sans? Is that can I just get like just a big chunky boy?
Just fill that section with his face.
Yeah. Can I just like
There's nothing but.
not even like the rest of it? Just yeah, something like that. I'm gonna stretch him out. Yeah. All right.
There you go.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, I don't know. I don't see anything wrong with it. I think that's the way that you'd have to do it.
It's very well done. I think I'm just finding it weird because he's 3D.
Oh.
I think that's what being weird for me. Like, there's nothing that is like objectively flawed with. I think my brain is just going. This skeleton gremlin is not meant to be 3-dimensional. I think that's what my brain is doing.
That's fair. But yeah, guys. I mean, Sans is really fun. The only thing I do wish is that, like, in an ideal world, he'd have his own moveset, and that's the thing I would have liked. Just like maybe he like in an ideal world, his like ultimate smash would be that he turns 2D, and then like the whole stage like is bombarded the way that it is in the game.
That would be cool. That would be really cool.
But yeah, no, the like Smash in general, like it's still a good game, still solid. I kind of wish I didn't pay the $24, knowing that I still have to spend 75 cents. I know it's such a dumb thing to complain about, but like what the fuck? So,
but also you spent $24.
Yeah. So that being said, beyond that, like also Pokemon. Holy shit, Pokemon's so good.
Yeah.
Pokemon looks so good. It looks like it's gonna be so much fun.
The teapot one looks adorable.
Friend who is adorable but has a terrifying description.
Yeah.
I didn't see its description.
They phrase it interestingly. That's all I'm gonna say about Teapot Friend.
I don't get.
I just know that he's a ghosty.
He is, and they're delightful. Dude, they look like a good friend.
Dude, we didn't even talk about fucking Pokemon Masters last week.
Yeah, the game that came out.
Let's talk about Pokemon Masters. It's gonna be a long episode today, guys. Let's talk about Pokemon. Yeah. Holy shit. As far as mobile games go, this one's really, really solid. I'm a little hit or miss on the combat. Have you guys had a chance to play it yet?
Yeah, no. I've got it, and it's interesting. Like it's good to still have the moveset, and I get why they have it set up the way they have, because they don't want you to just spam a move and kill the opponents. But it's weird it not being like properly turn-based anymore. Yeah. I don't know. I was kind of expecting it to be back to like the turn-based where you have like certain number of times you can use a move. I don't know why, but I was expecting that.
Yeah, no, I was hoping. I was hoping for that, but at the same time, you know, I should leave that to the Sword and Shield. But no, this Pokemon Masters is actually really, really fun. I don't have a lot of time to play it because, unfortunately, the Kaiba Cup is happening in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. So,
the Kaiba Cup.
Ooh, Mr. Big Shot into the Kaiba Cup. No, it's fucking yeah. It's I have to do it. Okay, I have to.
I know. I'm not faulting you for it.
I have to play.
No, that's fine. I'm just. I don't know. Just never heard of the Kaiba Cup.
The Kaiba Cup. It's the big tournament in Duel Links right now, but it's for like the world qualifiers and shit like that. But anyways, the point is that Pokemon Masters, if you guys haven't had a chance to play it, or you know, I'm sure you've seen it around, really solid. Give it a shot. Right now they have for the full month of September, I think there's an event in which there's a chance for you to get Gary or Blue.
Yep. I think he has a heightened chance. I think he'll still be there after the event, but you have a better chance of getting him for the month.
I think it's 7%. You have a 7% chance to get him. And so like I know personally Pokemon Masters, I almost feel like my phone might be too old because I tried to play it and it kind of it chugs sometimes here and there, and I'm assuming that's just because my phone's kind of old at this point.
It might also be server or internet stuff as well.
Yeah, the game,
because it is an internet game.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, but that's the thing. I don't have a problem with like Duel Links or like any of the other like Hearthstone or anything like that when I'm playing my card games. But then again, this is Pokemon Masters, a full 3D game. So I don't know. There's something there. But the point, like I said, Pokemon Masters, go check it out. The day I get Steven, I will let all of you know because Steven is my favorite. He's my boy right there, Metagross. So good.
Oh my god.
He's
so
good.
good.
And Metalcross is a good friend.
Yeah, steel Pokemon are
friend.
good friends. Anyways, back to the original topics at hand. So, let's get into the actual topics. An hour into the show, we're going to get into our actual topics for the week.
Yes, welcome to the show, 55 minutes later.
Yeah, 55 minutes into the show. Alright, I want to talk about Gallivant. This is a horrible picture to choose for Gallivant, but it's the highest quality one I could find. So...
Really?
Yeah, surprisingly. Real quick. This last couple weeks, me and Tabby were watching the show Gallivant. This is my 6th time watching it.
Yep.
Which tells you something. It means, one, the guy who doesn't like to rewatch things has rewatched this show 6 times.
So it's probably pretty good.
This is one of those shows that I really wish I didn't find out about until, like... They did such a bad job at advertising this show, and I cannot emphasize that enough.
Yeah.
Son of Zorn, Gallivant, like a lot of the shows that I'm
pretty sure the only place I've ever seen it, quote unquote, advertised is Tumblr, and not by like the people who made it, but by people who were like, "Oh hey, look at this cool show we're watching, guys! Please watch it so it doesn't get canceled."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Gallivant is a show about a knight named Gallivant who was madly in love with his girlfriend Madalena, until one day King Richard, the evil king, comes and snatches her away, and Gallivant does the traditional knight thing and goes and says, "Hey, I'm gonna go stop the wedding," because cool adventure guy stuff. He goes there to try to stop the wedding, and Madalena's like, "Actually, I'm a marry King Richard." And so Gal gets punched in the stomach, and it takes place a year after that, where a princess named Isabella is asking for Gallivant's help to stop King Richard from 100%. He's already taken over the kingdom of Valencia, which is where she comes from. But like she wants him to stop him. And Gallivant's like, "Yeah, I'll do it, but only because Madalena might still be in love with me." And that's a whole thing. So, Gallivant, that's the thing. Like, I gave you the entire description of the first episode. Each episode is 22 minutes long. It has musical numbers. It has fun humor. If you are a fan of Disney music, in terms of like sing-alongs and stuff like that, like Alan Menken is the boy who made like a lot of the Disney Renaissance music. So like he did the Pocahontas, fucking Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, like the list goes on. So
that's a pretty impressive repertoire.
Yeah. Fucking, so he did all these songs, he did all this stuff, and then he puts his work into Gallivant. And Gallivant is kind of like this fun, tongue-in-cheek little fantasy story. And the first season is really solid. It's definitely one of those things where, like, I'd say that it's a little slow at first, just because it doesn't really pick up until the end of the first season, where things are starting to all the plot threads that are happening all of a sudden kind of come together. Season 2 takes all those plot threads and then kind of scatters them into 3 different story arcs going on at the same time. But like season 2 then ends with a pretty tied up little story, like a tied up little bow. But they leave one little thread that remains just in case the show ever got picked up again. So the thing with Gallivant is, when I say it's a canceled show, it's canceled, but in the way that like they knew it was going to be canceled. Because apparently the numbers for season 1 were so horrendous that season 2 literally opens with a song talking about how hell will freeze over if we get decent ratings, and they talk about all the other shows that they have to compete against, like The Bachelorette, the Super Bowl, the Golden Globes, and and the song is just talking about like all these fucking like fucking, and like I guess they were banking on an enemy but they didn't get it for like Menken's work, and so like that's a whole nother thing. They poke fun of that. Like, the show is very tongue in cheek. It's very well done. The humor is so goddamn funny. King Richard is one of my favorite characters in fiction. And that's not an understatement. I can tell you this. I've watched this show 6 times, and around the 6th time, you'd expect me to like not laugh at something or like, oh, I know it's coming, you know, yada yada yada. But like, I still laughed and I still had a good time, and I still like the writing is so well done, and the prop humor, the casting, everything is just wonderful. And I'm trying not to oversell it, but like, go check it out. And you know, like, it's on Netflix. Each episode's only 20 minutes a piece, so I mean, there's 8 episodes in the first season, and there's 10 in the second. But like, you know, it's, I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like I never regret watching Gallivant, and like, it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like it's not like Lucifer, where I can talk about Lucifer and be like, yeah, but that 3rd season though, which has been a goddamn slug. It has been so slow. We've been trying so hard to get through it. But like, you know, you look at a show like Gallivant, a show that is relatively short on time, but also very well done with a very nice budget. And it works out. And they also make tons of Game of Thrones jokes because, let's face it.
Well, of course.
Yeah, any medieval show nowadays will make fun of that show.
I mean, it's especially easy to make fun of after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole nother thing. But anyways, guys, I'll get off my my high horse on Gallivant and let you guys talk a little bit about a show that you both enjoy, and I somehow got tricked into letting on my show. You guys both watch Critical Role.
Yes,
we do.
I have just started. Amanda is much further into it than I am.
I finished all of the first campaign and most of the second one.
And I have come into it on the second one because I attempted to get into. There's way too much stuff that's previously established, and I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, like, honestly, they only make slight references to the first campaign and the second one. So it's not as if you're going to be like totally out of the fucking loop if you decide to watch the second campaign.
Yeah, it's an entirely new group of characters that the players are using. I think it's still the same setting and world, but you're still like getting new information because it's like a different area, a different little culture and stuff. So at least I am not super lost, but I am enjoying what is happening. I think it's pretty neat.
So the campaign takes place 20 years after the first campaign. It is still in the same world and same setting, just totally different characters. And it's kind of cool. The players get to see some of the results of some of their actions. One of them was Percy, and he invented guns.
Yup.
And every time he gets fucking shot, now he's like, "Oh, I did this to myself. I'm just reaping what I sow." I literally, I basically handed it to him. All right.
Yep.
But it has the same crew of people. There's an onslaught of random guest stars every once in a while. They're great and they're wonderful. Ashley Birch is amazing when she's on. I love her. And God, where do I start talking about this show? I fucking love it so fucking much.
How about we go with like the characters and like maybe do like what is the thing you enjoy about them? Like, easy one to start with would be potentially Not, who is a delightful little woman who like you get introduced to her. She's very obviously has a bit of kleptomania, but she and Caleb are managing it as best they can in an interesting way.
My favorite is actually Ford.
Oh yeah, Ford is delightful. I'm not saying she's the best one. I was just like starting with a character.
Yeah.
Because you need to start somewhere.
I need to start somewhere. Not is a goblin rogue. She's beautiful and wonderful and very, very funny and is played by Sam Riegel. And I really don't want to spoil you on her and her journey, her very heartbreaking journey.
I know. I've seen little bits because the one thing about being on the internet is spoilers. So I have admittedly gone season knowing that one of them, and I know which one of them it is. I know what their ultimate fate is. I'm not going to say it out loud just in case there's somebody who doesn't know what we're talking about who watches it. But like,
Yeah.
I am going into it knowing that. But I'm finding it doesn't like spoil what's happening for me. I think this is definitely a series
I mean,
because it's still like they're still interesting. It's still interesting to see where they're starting out and what they're doing.
Yeah.
Which is appreciated.
Yeah. So far, we've only lost one player character, and that was Molly Mock. And I loved Molly Mock.
He's so fun. He is very fun. I love the flamboyancy of his character and how he plays things.
Yeah, he was great. I miss him every day. He was a new class. Matt Mercer has a habit of making new classes for his friends slash players. For instance, the gunslinger class, and
homebrewing
more
content.
recently, the it is one of the archetypes for the monk, which his wife plays, and then the blood hunter, which I will forever be sad that we didn't get to see a full official build of by the original. It's a lot of potential that was kind of lost, and it makes me sad. Because with the last one, we got to see Percy go through his whole, like, okay, this is how I build guns, this is how I break everything down, and how everything needs to work, and how I build my character. And a lot of people take that as inspiration, which makes me really sad that we don't get to see this Witcher motherfucker come in and tear people a new one.
Well, perhaps if another player character dies, get somebody else that class back on the team. But let's not hope for that outcome. The characters as they are lovely. I don't want to see anything bad happen to them.
At this point, I don't think anyone's gonna fucking die. They would have to go through a lot to have someone die.
Yeah, I mean, true, but that doesn't mean a lot can't happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, though I have to say, Mercer doesn't strike me as the DM who's intentionally making it super hard and deadly every session.
Yeah, he doesn't. But I mean, they have 2 fucking clerics on the team, so I think they'd be hard pressed.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to die with that setup unless you distract the clerics elsewhere.
Yeah. I really just need to go through the rest of the fucking characters already. Fucking so Travis Willingham plays Ford. I've already talked poor Mitch. I've talked his fucking ear off about Ford and how much I fucking love his character.
He seems like a very good guy. He seems like he's definitely doing his best with everything.
Ford is a half-orc warlock, and I have a soft spot because warlocks are my favorite fucking class.
They're a
period.
pretty good class.
They're a wonderful class. He is a odd mix of a hexblade warlock, which typically means that your sword is the symbol of your pack, and your pact is with the sword. Essentially, you devote your mind, body, and soul to sword fighting, but instead he actually has a patron instead, which is odd. There's Laura Bailey. And I
Yeah.
love her. And Laura plays Jester, which is a tiefling cleric.
Who is also just a delight. I am enjoying how like bubbly she is in terms of
Yeah.
personality. Like she's not it's not obnoxiously bubbly and cheerful about things. Like she does know how to balance, which I mean I guess like they're all pretty good voice actors, so they know how to balance their characters and like the tone that they're bringing to it. But
Yeah, I mean, they're all professional actors, so you
mm,
know, when their characters come up, they know what to do. Um, then there's Bo, and I love Bo. Bo is amazing. Bo is a big inspiration for some of my characters. Um, Bo is played by Marisha, which is Matt's wife, and Marisha is also wonderful. She is excellent at note taking. Apparently, she's gone through several notebooks, just filling them completely with information.
I mean, it's useful to have somebody who does that on the squad. Somebody who's keeping track of everything that happens.
Yeah. There's Caduceus, which is played by Taliesin Yaffe, and Taliesin, it's his second character.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say that, but I loved Molly more than I like Caduceus. I've seen so much of a Mother Nature type character in the first one that I'm tired.
Yeah.
Like, no shame on him for picking a Mother Nature cleric, but I'm tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm over it. Which I know he tries to make it edgy, but I'm sorry. I'm done. Uh and then last but not least is Caleb Widowgeist, which is Liam O'Brien.
I love this frumpy hobo man and his delightful orange cat.
Yeah. Uh so I do have to ask, how far are you?
I am not super far in. They've done like the first big mission and they're getting to the next city. But it's also I'm in a university and I've just gotten back to term, so I haven't had a chance to watch it again super recently. Because
Have they made it to Nicodranus where you are? Or no, not Nicodranus. Fuck. The big city.
not quite. They're on their way. They're currently in a mine full of things that have kidnapped people to eat them.
Oh, yeah.
So pretty early on.
Yeah, you're really,
Really
really
early
early
on.
on.
Yeah.
So, what made you want to watch it to begin with?
Um, well, one thing is just I'd seen a bunch of stuff that made it looked pretty fun. And unlike with Overwatch, never saw anything that actively made me go, "Oh, I think maybe not," because it seems like they are actually delivering on the things that they brought with their conceit. But no, it just seemed like, well, one, I know a bunch of the voice actors. I've seen what they've done in like other in like video game productions and stuff. So I know that they're pretty good at their job, and it seemed like they had some pretty fun characters, which in terms of D&D podcasts is normally the thing that I look for, because that's most of what you're looking for in a thing where you're following these characters through various shenanigans. So yeah. I've also just seen a lot of enthusiasm surrounding it. So I'm like, yeah, this looks like I'll check it out. And then I did, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I really, really like it. Lesbihime mentions that they thought that Molly kind of sucked and they
Mm.
actually prefer Clay. And I totally understand. Molly is i- quote unquote kind of a prick,
Mm.
but there's something I just love about that. I love that he just, I mean, Sam can get away with it all the time.
Yeah, he pulls it off well. Like there's characters that work having a prickly bit to them. And then there's some characters that don't, and that's mostly a matter of personal taste. Like, I've liked somewhat douchebag, or at least not nice all the time characters before, and then there's some that I'm just like, oh, really? You? Why do people like you?
Yeah,
And that happens.
yeah. The one I found the hardest to grow on me was actually Bo. It took a long time for her to grow on me, but when she was there, I love her.
Oh, I loved
I
her
love
from
her so
second
much.
one. I'm like, snarky rogue person, I like you. I mean, she's not actually, but I'm talking about like the personality type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I instantly fell in love with Ford though. Ford is my favorite, and I'm so sorry, Mitch, that I do not shut the fuck up about Ford.
Yeah, I could see from like second one why he was most content of after Molly Mock.
I loved him so much. I still love him to fucking pieces. Something happened with his character recently, which is why I'm not caught up, because I have this thing where if something bad happens to a character I really like, I fucking back away as fast as possible and avoid.
So you're waiting for the all clear, you're waiting for people to go, oh, it's okay, your boy's going to be fine.
Yeah, I've just received the all clear, and so I'm willing to hop. But I panicked. If fucking
I laugh,
Ford
but I get
died,
it. I
would
get
have.
it.
I'm fucking. I love the show. I love all of the actors. If Ford dies, I don't know how I'm gonna continue on.
Well, I mean, I guess it'll depend on who comes next and how the cast handles Ford being gone.
No, sorry, it's a hard no.
No, it's just a hard no.
It's a hard no. I just love him too much. I love the text blade. He's just this fucking southern ass fucking orc, and I love him. Oh god, I can't fucking help it. And everybody keeps going back and forth on if he's evil or not. And fuck me, I'm down for if he's evil or not. I don't care.
I think he could work either way, but from what I've seen of him so far, I think he's trying his best to be a good dude.
Yeah,
like,
and
he maybe could be misled into doing bad things, but he seems like he wants to be a good dude.
Yeah, and I'm very curious about his backstory, because we spent there was a good chunk of time in which they're like, oh, your patron, and let's go do missions for your patron, and let's figure out what's going on, and hey, Ford, can you tell us a little bit about your backstory? And he'll be like, no. It's like, son of a bitch. And he finally fucking mentioned one thing about his backstory, and it's not spoilery or anything, but he mentions that he grew up in the Driftwood Asylum. Which, what the fuck? I'm sorry, this is so dumb, but I keep bringing Ford up, and I'm sorry anybody who's like, Ford's alright.
I think he's delightful. I think he's a good dude.
Yeah, but honestly,
my love for him is obviously not as strong as yours. I think all equally wonderful so far.
Yeah, I think you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who loves Ford as much as I do as a character. But I think it might be a good way to segue into horror. Ford is an excellent way to segue into horror. Most of his stuff revolves around eldritch abominations.
Yeah, I noticed that from the first little glimpse of the patron I've seen. He's gonna get to deal with all this stuff.
Yeah, nice and spooky. But yeah, so horror settings and horror in D&D. So, Mitch.
Yeah, what's up?
Pulling you back into the conversation.
Yeah, on my own show, yeah.
Welcome back.
I'm so sorry.
No, you know when I said, "Hey, you guys," I thought we were going to talk about like actual oh yeah, D&D podcast. How do they work? You know, why there's tens of thousands of goobers. Hell, I was one who thought like I could make my own. And there's so much that goes into it, and it's definitely led to the revival of D&D as a game. But like, it's
which
okay.
is not.
No. We don't get to backtrack. We're in horror now. Fucking,
Okay.
we don't get
Sorry.
to backtrack. I sat here for 20 minutes. Fucking.
I'm sorry, I got lost.
Oh my god.
I'm
Alright.
sorry, my ADD kicked in hard.
Dude, it's fine. So, alright, the main fucking topic of today was going to be about horror settings, and specifically what makes them effective and what doesn't make them effective.
Mm-hmm.
So, who wants to go first?
I guess I will.
Mm-hmm.
I run a horror D&D campaign myself, and I also play a lot in Mitch's, which usually somehow lead back into horror every time. Not that I mind it. I actually really, really enjoy how you do your horror scenes, Mitch.
Yep.
They've actually been a really big inspiration for my fucking campaigns. I think you're wonderful description-wise, and your choice in music is always fucking spot on. Every fucking time. Dude, it's not even funny how fucking excellent your timing is.
That being said, so what do you think makes an effective hang on, let's be human. Said y'all backtracked on Overwatch. Don't see why we can't talk about Critical Role for 30 hours.
Too late, new tangent.
No. Fuck it. You know what? Why not? Let's go back. Let's talk.
Okay.
Yeah, fuck it. You know what? This isn't a fucking real ass show. That's not me being sarcastic. That's me being like, this is a show. If I wanted to, I could do D&D at the end of my sections of fucking this podcast if I wanted to. It's my party, and I'll cry if I want to. So I guess coming from an outsider's perspective on Critical Role, I don't know jack shit about Critical Role. I know it's oversaturated as fuck. I'm never gonna listen to it because if I don't like it, there's an intense pressure to like it. But I that's not to me being like I'm better than Critical Role. That's me being like it's a thing that exists that made D&D what it is now. And I don't want to listen to it because I wouldn't. I don't know. I feel like I would listen to D&D podcasts if I had the time, but it's not a thing. So what makes the show, especially Critical Role, being such a big, grand gravitas kind of show? Like, what makes it stick out compared to, let's say, the Adventure Zone or some other contenders out there? Like, there's tons of people who do that, and
there are.
There's even Overwatch voice actors who do it beyond Matt Mercer. Like, there's tons of different ones. I know College Humor has theirs. Like, what exactly? Like, what do you think makes it stand out from an outsider's perspective? Like, if you had to tell me like why I should get into it, what would it be? What makes this one the definitive one?
Honestly, I think a lot of reason why it draws so much attention is because of who's playing D&D. Most of them are well-known, popular voice actors.
That's definitely a big part of its popularity. But that said, like, they are doing a good job. Both, like, the DM, Matt Mercer, he's really good at setting the tone and making interesting little NPCs and everything. And the fact that there's a visual component, unlike a lot of the D&D podcasts where you actually can see the people's face reactions. You can see they have little sets for each of their like combat scenarios and stuff like that. You actually get to see it, and there's like lighting and stuff like that, which is a little bit different. I mean, I don't personally find that makes or breaks it for me, but I think that's sort of what makes it a little bit distinct, because there is that visual aspect to it that a lot of the other podcasts don't have.
Oh, definitely. Honestly, it's also how the players and the table interact with each other. They've all been friends for like a really, really long time. And when they're in their character, they're in their character. There's straight up points in which if their character is really upset, the player will start to cry. They're willing to cry and scream and get mad and joke and play around, and it's really, really cool to just how much they just get into their characters.
Oh yeah,
as like
they have
actors.
wonderful chemistry with each other's characters too. It's really good the way they play off each other.
Oh yeah. There's just some distinct points in time in which I remember in which fucking one of the players is the wife of another player and the player dies, and like she's sobbing at the table, and it's so fucking heartbreaking, but she's just so in the moment of the fucking character that it's honestly very impressive. So I want to say it's just the chemistry and the voice acting, honestly.
Yeah, they commit to the roles when they're playing the roles. Pretty cool to see.
Oh yeah, it's amazing to see.
Yeah, especially since like most of them are voice actors. The fact that they bring like physicality to it as well is really cool. I mean, I know a lot of voice actors will do some physical stuff in the booth just to get the feeling for it, but actually getting to watch that, it's pretty neat.
Yeah, no, it's super neat. But yeah, I guess that's the answer.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like, and like you mentioned, like a lot of the other ones, humor oriented, and that is true to a certain degree. I do find most D&D podcasts like to go for the humor tone, but I wouldn't say that makes Critical Role humorless. They do have like jokes and funny moments in there. It's just not the objective to the show.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay. So it sounds to me that like what makes Critical Role, based on what you guys have said, it sounds like if I had to sum it up, it would be it's the blend of the story as well as the actors. In this case, so like in this case, D&D is, for those at home, a good way to look at D&D is it is a play. It's a play in which the actors have to essentially do improv. You throw them into you throw them on.
So does the playwright.
The playwright is sitting there, like he's sitting in the audience, but he also comes in and plays NPCs, and everyone on the stage has to kind of do their thing, and things change and set pieces change depending on how the characters act. So in this case, I would see it kind of like how. It seems like it's just because the actors and the playwright are of such a high quality that that's what makes the show so definitively the best. But meanwhile, you can have shows like The Adventure Zone, where because it is done in such a nonchalant kind of fun way, while also taking its moments to have its moments.
Seriousness.
Yeah,
they do a good job of balance.
Where it could be played for humor, but that humor and that levity allows for like moments of seriousness to really impact, kind of like how Gintama does it, where everything is very happy-go-lucky, very comedic, but in those moments of seriousness, that's where it matters. JoJo Part 4 is another good example, where you spend a lot of time goofing around, learning of the people about the town. Some moments are very silly, but when shit hits the fan, shit hits the fan. So I feel like it's how you interpret those genres and how you interpret, like, it's what you want to get out of it, and I think that's what makes the game of Dungeons and Dragons interesting, but also the rise of Dungeons and Dragons shows, because I think that there's tons of people, myself included, who didn't necessarily know exactly what makes that work or what makes that happen, and it has to be that perfect blend of the DM, the players, and honestly the story. The three components that make it work. So I mean that's the thing. I don't want to sound like a dick. It's not like I'm thinking I'm better than fucking Critical Role or anything like that. It's just I feel like because it's so oversaturated, and because I don't know. I also just don't have the time. So, but it's good that you guys like it. And
their episodes aren't exactly short.
Yeah. Like it's definitely interesting. But that being said, let's go ahead and get back into the topic that we fucking blinked out of to get back into that. All right, so horror settings and horror scenarios, what makes them work? I think the greatest horror scenarios and settings. I think a scenario only works based on its setting, and I think to me the best settings for horror are the mundane. It's like you always see like the creepy old house or the church or the whatever, but I think it's the ones where it's something so mundane and so surreal. I like to use, when I write scenarios for horror, I like to use forests, because it is a very primal, forests in the dark where you don't know what lingers or lurks, but something's there. I like to use fog. I like to use I like to use places in which the players, in this case, like the audience, has this sense of dread, and like you can have like a scary mansion, or you can have like like caves and stuff like that, because caves are very effective too. But I feel like it needs to draw on the player's most primal fears, or in this case, the audience's most primal fears. Something that I really, I was talking about the Vitch earlier in the month, or like last month. I was talking about that horror movie, and I think the thing that made it work was isolation. One of the most primal fucking fears that humans have is to be alone. And I think to be separate from that community and to have all this strange stuff happening and to feel hopeless and helpless is what makes it work. And I think just also the appropriate use of gore imagery and other things like that. Something that I also find super effective in settings and scenarios is using something that's very familiar but ever so slightly off. So like one of my favorite motifs is to take human anatomy and either extend it or add something that's slightly off. So like a naked man with just a goat's head is something I always like. Is like something I like to go for, like that whole like Baphomet, something like that. But the idea that it's not a god or anything, it's just a thing. Like that's the thing that I like to do personally, is to just make something, something fun. One of the things that I actually had planned on my end was to put my players in a very normal scenario, but have it so that like someone's neck just starts extending.
And I'd know about that. I'd know about that.
Like their neck just starts extending, and it's very like, it's odd, and then their head fall, like like they can't get their balance, and it's like a panicky scenario. That's another thing, panic. So in terms of I feel like I'm describing more scenarios than settings. Settings have to work on the most primal of your fears. I think that's why Friday the 13th works, or like Halloween works, is because Halloween is like, this guy's gonna break into your house very silently and without you knowing, and he's just gonna be there with a knife, And these
Yeah,
are
that's a creepy concept.
it's not overly complicated. It's very simple and basic. But the idea that a large lumbering like 6'5" guy is just hiding in your closet with a knife, waiting to get you, is something that's very primal. You know, someone who's stronger than you, someone who can, you know, like fuck you up. The home is where we consider ourselves safe. It, you know, and to remove that safety and to remove that sense of comfort, especially for audience members, because like, how many times have you ever seen, when especially when you're younger, you saw a horror movie or something like that, and all of a sudden you were a little spooked. You know, you're walking through the halls and it's dark and you're like, oh no, like, you know, it's a dumb movie, but you know, that little part of your imagination that's starting to work, you know, those gears are turning. And
paranoia and the hindbrain, it's still just going, okay, but what if?
Exactly. And like, I think that's why especially Friday the 13th works, whether you think it's a silly slasher or whether you think it's you know, a horror movie, it's whatever. But the idea that you're isolated, it's isolated and it's supposed to be comfortable. You know, it's the best of both worlds. You're supposed to be at a camp where things are pretty under control, but this guy with a fucking machete, you know, is doing his thing. And I think that's, you know, that's kind of what you need to do.
Yeah, and stuff like that's also why, like, I don't know if you, but I think that's like having that being both grounded and sort of like there's a certain degree of isolation. Like it takes place in a city, so the characters aren't like isolated from the world, but it's following this family that through various circumstances have kind of isolated themselves from each other.
What's the thing you're talking about?
The Haunting of Hill House.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
It's I would actually, like, if you like horror shows, I would actually recommend that you watch this one if you haven't already, because it does balance that tension very well, and the way they sort of integrate the ghosts into the world is actually kind of creepy, and it does sort of like come like, because it also like it comes, some of the problem comes in from the family as well, so it's I'm trying to think of like the proper words to do this, brain, come on please, but it's very good at its atmosphere building, because it's grounded enough that your brain can put you there, but it's off enough to trigger that fear factor. Like the way that some of the ghosts will bleed out of the environment in certain scenes. It's pretty creepy.
Oh no, definitely. God, some of my favorite is Lovecraftian horror. I love a good worst case scenario. Humans run on the basic idea of mind, body, and soul. Usually the destruction of one will lead into a pretty good reaction, whether you're destroying someone's mind, their body, or soul. It's excellent either fucking way. I accidentally figured out one of my players' existential fears.
Oh!
And kind of used it against her without particularly meaning to.
Oops.
Yeah. I don't know if it's appropriate to get into it, but like, let's just say I ended up sort of using it as a scene, and she ended up crying.
Oh no.
Yeah. And like, as her friend, I felt really, really bad. I don't want to make my friend cry, but as a DM, that was great. That was wonderful.
Because it means you built the scene and the scenario very effectively.
Yeah.
In a believable manner, yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't have to do anything like really, really crazy. I didn't show
Mhm.
her body horror. I didn't show her like herself dying or other
Mhm.
people getting like murdered or ghosts or monsters or anything. I played
Mhm.
it really soft and really quiet,
Mhm.
but it was essentially like a look in the mirror for her character
Mhm.
of you're gonna die and this version of you dies alone.
Ooh.
And I played it really soft. I did a like a note from like her future self, and
Mhm.
it kind of made the whole table go, "Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay."
Yes,
So,
subtlety is an important thing in horror that I'm not sure all horror writers have figured out.
yeah. So sometimes it doesn't even have to be this big gory explosion. Sometimes it's just something that affects you personally
Mhm.
that you can just sit about and
Mhm.
fear later. It doesn't always have to be big and showy. Do I like it when it is? Oh, fucking definitely. But I also like it when it's a subtle, soft
Mhm.
horror.
Yeah.
Like, clearly, this affects one person more than the rest of the group, but it affected her and her character a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really nice when writers and directors can make those like that can make effective horror without having to resort to that. Like to go back to Hill House, one of the creepier scenes in the movie is like the ghost isn't like doing anything to hurt anybody. The guy actually the one of the other character in the scene actually thinks that the person is alive, but then she tries to speak and no words come out. It's just the sound of his phone ringing.
Oh, yeah.
And it's really creepy because you can see like this desperation in the spirit, like I'm trying to communicate with you, but she can't, and like he can never find out what she was going to say because the phone starts going and he looks away, and when he looks back, she's
Yeah.
gone, and like this desperate warning that she was trying to give can just never be delivered.
Oh, yeah. I think moments like those are is sometimes really, really effective.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, again, I do have to wonder though, Mitch, why do you like doing horror so much?
Yes, what draws you to it?
Um, it stemmed from one session. Back
Mm.
back when I first started DMing, I had one session where I built up this enemy, and I had his health set, and I had everything, and I wanted it to be a one-on-one brawl, and it was going to be the big the climactic big fight. And I'm like, all right,
Mm.
like no weapons, no nothing. We're just going to bare knuckle fist fight. And then I remembered only 2 minutes into the fight that, oh yeah, that's right, people can still use their skills. And he won the fight
Mm.
real easily, and it broke all the tension, and I hated it.
Yeah.
And I was like, this was anticlimactic as fuck, and I was like a big bitch baby about it. And Well, it's great if you want to tug your dick. It's not what I want.
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons specifically Dungeons and Dragons is a power fantasy.
Mm.
It is a game designed to make, to have you be the things that you can't be, like a paladin or a
Mm.
warlock or whatever. And even in my old writing, Josh pointed out the other day that like in my old writing, I had a tendency to write more body horror esque stuff.
Mm.
Um, when I was depressed. And I think a lot of why I do horror, and like specifically for Dungeons and Dragons, is because all I wanted was in that moment is for there to be this feeling of tension, of and there's that thought process of, yeah, you could have just upped the stats, but I'm like, that's in the moment I didn't think of it, and so like but like honestly, I think I get more of a kick out of making players feel frightened, and then to have that elation when they overcome it, or at least run away from it, or having the players or the audience go through the scenario and then come out on the other side. And I think that's something that I don't really enjoy in horror, is when the story ends where it's like, and everyone died, the end. It's like, that's not...
Yeah, those aren't as satisfying, especially if I don't feel like the monster, creature, person, whatever has earned it.
Yeah.
Because some horror protagonists are just so dumb.
The thing that bothers me with those endings is that a horror story is, in my opinion, a story that should always... It's a challenge. It's something supernatural. It's something that you're not used to. Mm-hmm. And I think the idea, the elation and the fear comes from the ability to understand, a sense of rules, a sense of, what it can do, what it can be. The reason why Freddy works so well is because he has established rules. Mm-hmm. If he was just a guy who could do willy-nilly whatever the fuck he wanted, then people wouldn't think that he's as great, There needs to be this sense of hope. Mm-hmm. Because, and I think that's the biggest trick to writing a successful horror scenario, is you always have to be able to balance the sense of hope and the sense of dread. You should never make too much dread, but should also never give too much hope. It always needs to be a teeter-totter of balance. Because at the end of the day, you should have a player or an audience member. If you're fighting the big, let's take It, right? Like, oh, you're fighting the It monster, you're fighting Pennywise, and let's say one of the kids smashes him in the head with a pipe. There should be elation. There should be a release of, oh my god, he hurt him, finally.
Like,
and then
holy shit, this terror can actually bleed.
Yeah, like have like, that's why Predator works. If it bleeds, you can kill it. Have those moments. Have that be like, oh my god, because that'll give you like that keeps you in. No one wants to see a bunch of people get torn up by a godlike monster who can never be defeated because there are no rules or established things. And that's another thing, you have to establish it. Predator is a great way to establish rules. Over the course of the adventure, Schwarzenegger finds out what exactly the Predator can do. He knows that he's using camo. He on a mistake, not a mistake, but on accident, he finds out that like he's using heat, like he can only see in heat, and so he covers himself in mud. And so there's a moment where the monster bleeds green blood, which tells them if it bleeds, you can kill it. And then like you don't think of Predator as like a horror movie sometimes, but like that's what it is. And it's this thing where it's like it establishes the rules, it establishes what can happen, and so you want to see the good guy get out at the end. And I think that's all in all stories, you want to see the protagonist get out in the end. And so it's trying to create a balance of hope and a balance of fear. One of the best ways I think you like, if done effectively, is to raise the hope, slam it down. The problem is that slamming it down can be seen very predictably, especially with the way that we consume movies nowadays, where we have a really good idea of like, oh well, there's still like 20 minutes left, or oh well, they're gonna do this now. We've become accustomed to it. So I think,
well, if you're pacing your movie really well, then people aren't paying that much attention to that.
Well, that's the trick, though. The trick is that you're under the assumption, you would have to assume that you're like, I am nailing it. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. So you have to come up with ways to, not to Brian Johnson this, but to avert expectations to a degree. Not all the time, but sometimes, and you have to find ways to make it your own. And I think that that's the challenge with writing horror scenarios, and kind of like why at least I think it's interesting. The reason the short answer is, a guy one time messed up one of my bosses, and I decided from that point on that if I was going to make bosses, I would want to write them like horror monsters are written. Whether it's a flying god, whether it's an actual scary monster, whether it's whatever, every scenario my players should be in for a boss fight should feel like a horror movie. There should be the tension, there should be the rise, there should be the, there should be a sense of dread, like when it needs to be. Not every scenario, obviously, that you can have your like fun fighting stuff, but for the most part, like if you're writing a scenario in which it's about survival, or if it's about whatever, these are things that you need to take into consideration. And I think that writing every boss, in my opinion, as a horror monster, not design wise, but the idea of balancing hope and despair, balancing hope and fear, these are things that need to be taken into consideration when writing, when you write horror, because you need to make sure the audience is always there. So
I think you do a pretty good job of that.
Oh yeah.
Like, for reference, I play a character in one of Mitch's campaigns, and like the first session, me and the other players, one of which is Amanda, we had an optional encounter that we all went, yeah, this is too spooky for us, we're leaving, and had to drag the NPC away, because that owl that shouldn't exist here just vomited up a mouse that walked away.
It was inside
no, thank
out.
you.
It was an inside
We're
out mouse.
It was an inside out mouse.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, dude, I think you do a pretty good fucking job at
Jesus
it,
Christ.
considering Nextian and Nate still have PTSD thanks to Nifaloa.
Yeah, but that's the trick, is you also have, like, I don't know, the trick is you have to act on those primal stuff. And for a lot of D&D players, they're used to, whether they're used to or not, like, they're used to being able to fight against a specific enemy. And so, like, nothing invokes fear more than powerlessness. And I think that's a whole nother thing. But, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that if you want to make a successful horror setting, what I would highly recommend is just take something that is, that I think we all have natural fears about. In a short story I wrote a long time ago, one of the places I made was this back alley. The idea was this guy was, not to fucking tout my own writing. No, the idea was that he was taking drugs because he kept singing. He kept seeing these small parasite-like mammals. And so, like, he kept seeing these like little armored little creatures that seemed to just hang on to everyone, and he took drugs to kind of balance himself out. You can tell I was a teen when I wrote this. And the scenario, every time he takes the drugs, though, he slowly but surely loses more of himself. He loses the ability to, his vision starts to blur. He doesn't feel his, he has a harder time walking around. And he slowly but surely understands over the course of the story that that inevitably, the longer he either learns to accept that these are just a natural part of his life and stop taking the drugs, or lose himself. And so by the end of the story, he's confined to a hospital bed, and all the creatures just surround him, and he can't move or anything. I was real edgy, and I had this whole thing where I didn't write happy endings, and it was an edgy shit tier kid. But the point is that I used that specific alleyway as my point of reference. The whole gimmick was the fact that there was a parallel universe layered on top of our own, like a Photoshop layer, and that but that he was able to see the other layer. And so what I kept doing was every time we'd walk in the hallway, there was a humanoid-esque parasite that was just curled up in a ball facing the wall. And so the alleyway kept becoming more and more messed up every time he kept going back. And eventually, near the end of the book, he would walk the hallway, or walk through the alleyway, and when he stepped on it, it felt weird and squishy, and the whole hall was made of was like the whole alleyway was made of flesh, wall to wall, just pulsating, because and the idea is that he goes to the dealer, and the dealer, like, he still looks normal the way he does, but everything else is just like, pulsating. And it was just something that I don't know. I like to think that, like, the things that we fear ourselves. We fear, like, gore and that kind of shit, and all that crap. But, like, working on where you work primally and then work your way up. Start with that foundation and then work your way up. And I think that works. So, that being said, this podcast has been 2 hours, and
yeah.
Yep.
I think we did a good job today, guys. I think we can stop. Thank you all so much for sticking around the full 2 hours today.
Yes, thank you.
If you let us know in the comments down below what parts of this podcast you really enjoyed, because I kind of liked talking about some of the news stuff. I thought maybe that could be fun to maybe pick out a couple news articles before we start up every show. Let us know down below. I really enjoyed today's episode. And let us know. I always love reading your guys' comments, and we'll catch you guys next Sunday. It's sad, there's so many games that came out that I haven't been able to play yet. There's Catherine Full Body, Daemon Ex Machina's coming out soon.
Yeah, that one looks pretty neat.
Oh, I love mechs so fucking much. But also,
the actual chain game that just came out also.
Oh fuck yeah, Platinum fucking Studios, fucking yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I think my favorite. Let me share this one little tidbit before I go. One of my favorite things that happened this week was so as some of you guys know, I'm a pretty big fan of Final Fantasy. I'm a very very big fan of Final Fantasy. I was actually playing it the other day, and I had changed my character's race to one of the lion people. I went the Hrothgar, because I was like, you know what, fuck it, why not? I like the aesthetic, why not? I was doing a dungeon. I was doing one of my dailies, weeklies, because I needed to get it done. And this kid was just such a bitch to all of us. Like we admittedly we messed up. It's the new weekly raid is, it's a dance. You walk from point A to point B. You gotta make sure that you do all this stuff. And if you're not accustomed to raiding, especially with like new players and stuff, then it's a little difficult. And this guy was just giving them such a hard time, such a hard fucking time. He's like, you guys even play Final Fantasy games? And I just want to say to that person, go fuck yourself. like, come on, dude. Like, fucking, not every Final Fantasy game is like 14.
No.
Isn't
that kind of like a feature of Final Fantasy?
Yeah.
Most of them are fairly standalone.
Yeah, well, all of them are standalone.
Playing
except for like
7 wouldn't help you with 14.
Yeah, that's like saying, oh, what, you can't get past this boss in Final Fantasy 15? What, have you not played 9? Like, it doesn't help, fucko. Like, fucking, like, what are you expecting here? Like. All it is just an RPG with fucking... It doesn't fucking matter. But the point is, it's just... I thought it was a funny thing to bring up. Because it was just like the weirdest feeling of like... Like, what do you want from these people? More important... there's tons of people who 14 is probably their first and admittedly only Final Fantasy game. And it's a pretty good game. If that's going to be the one you pick, why not? Like, fuck.
For some people, it might just straight up be their first video game.
Oh my god! For those people, maybe you shouldn't pick 14.
Yeah. Brave.
You brave souls.
Brave soul.
I mean, 14 was my first MMO. Like, you know, like it's one of those things where like that was the one that I really got into, and like I can't go to World of Warcraft or the other ones because they don't let me play with a controller. I can't imagine playing an MMO with a keyboard. It looks like a fucking nightmare.
It does.
So, anyways, guys, I just want to share with you my little tidbit of the week of, hey, there was this guy that was a dick in FF14. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening in for the full podcast. Let us know in the comments down below, what was your favorite segments of this week, and just know that, hey, this is a free format. You know, we can do whatever we want because it's a podcast. It's my show, and I get to cry if I want to. I do like having the 2-hour long podcast though. I think that's a nice way to do it. Maybe we'll just do what Harmontown does, and we'll just have. Oh no, I lost my hair tie. Damn it. Damn it. Anyways, we'll do what Harmontown does, and we'll just do like the last 30 minutes of the show is just a D&D campaign. Just steal that gimmick from them. All right, guys, we'll catch you guys.
I'd be down.
All right, we'll catch you guys next time.
Next time.